It's like one more member of the community. And today we are also joined by some very special visitors whose, I think this is their first time in a Clear Mountain Saturday. First we have Tiara, Joanna, Maeve, and Liv over there visiting us from Vancouver, the whole family. They took a train trip down here and are just wonderful supporters from up there. So feel free to surround them in a friendly way afterwards and talk to them a little bit. And very importantly, we have
my dad. And wasn't sure if wanted to out him, but he looks, just a hint, he looks like Gary. And if you don't know who Gary is, he looks like my dad. But yeah, actually, I'll add him. That's him over there. So please, yeah, say hello after the gathering. Yeah. Thanks for coming, Dad. Yeah.
If we could give a big round of sparkly fingers for birthing Ajahn Kovilo. Okay. And his name is Randy. So thank you, Dad, for coming. Oh, Mark from the East Coast. Oh, yeah. Okay. Mark. Sorry. What was your last name again? Mark Hart. Yes. And yeah, so actually we have quite a spectrum of people all visiting today. A few announcements. First, and use a mic for this if we could. Do we have a mic for? Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to encourage the community to the nascent baby vihara in Olympia with the Pasadi Vihara. They really could use some meal offerings. The calendars frequently needs filling, so they can't. That's for their food for them to eat. So I just encourage you to look at it, try to be regular about it, and see if there's the big yellow spots where there's no food offerings. So it would be great if you did it. It's a wonderful 2 bikinis, and it's hard to start a vihara. Yeah. Oh yeah, Pasadi, P-A-S-A-D-H. 2 S.
2 S's, 2 D's. Pasadi, P-A-S-S-A-D-D-H-I.
Yeah, and you can also just Google Olympia Buddhist nuns, and they come
Yeah,
up.
there aren't that many, so
Yeah.
that'll do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we really do want to look after our siblings down there. Just take some time, look at their website, and see what you feel inspired to do. We also have a new bulletin board in the back. That's, as many of you know, we're really trying to encourage the community to begin hosting kind of self-led events and Dharma dinners, Bhavana brunches, Bodhi backpacks, whatever. So if you decide to host something at your house once a month, once every 2 months, whatever, feel free just to post it up there, and people will be able to see it. Our WhatsApp group is also supposed to be a forum for that, so feel free to sign up for that on the website. And finally, Bonnie is here. Do you want to announce? Yes, so, and I put the sheets in the back, Bonnie. I put the volunteer sheets on the table in the back, the New Year's Eve ones.
I looked, I couldn't find them.
I just put them there right now. Sorry.
Hi, good morning, everybody. New Year's Eve is the 3rd, I think. Will it be the 3rd time? Yeah, the 3rd vigil at Fauntleroy Church. It's the all-night vigil. It's a wonderful night of chanting and meditation and chocolate eating and napping. And it really is a fantastic night. And it's in a beautiful location, but we can't do it without volunteers. So the sign-up sheet is back there, and we need people mainly to transport, greeters, sanctuary people, coffee people, people to donate chocolate. And some of the volunteer positions might be just for part of the night, some may be for the whole night, but we can arrange things to make it work for people. So contact me, sign up, and we'll keep reminding you gently about the positions that are open as the weeks come by, but really do think about it. Even if you can't volunteer, it really is a very, very special night. So if you can go even for part of it, it's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Bonnie. Bonnie is one of our Sangha coordinators and is helping spearhead this event. And yeah, staying up all night, not sleeping sounds interesting. It is really fun. And there is a nap room. You don't have to come for all of it. You can nap for some of it, but consider coming, and the sign up sheet's in the back. And finally, there's something that I'm forgetting. So we're just going to gloss over that and chant. On page 46, you'll find the highest blessings. And if you're joining us on Zoom, feel free to find that link in the chat or YouTube the description, page 46. Thus have I heard that the Blessed One was staying at Savatthi, residing at the Jeta's Grove, in Anathapindika's park. Then in the dark of the night, a radiant Deva illuminated all Jeta's Grove. She bowed down low before the Blessed One. Then standing to one side, she said, Devas are concerned for happiness and ever long for peace. The same is true for humankind. What then are the highest blessings? Avoiding those of foolish ways, associating with the wise, and honoring those worthy of honor. These are the highest blessings, living in places of suitable kinds, with the fruits of past good deeds, and guided by the rightful way. These are the highest blessings, accomplished in learning and craftsman skills, with discipline highly trained, and speech that is true and pleasant to hear. These are the highest blessings, providing for mother and father's support, and cherishing family, and ways of work that harm no being. These are the highest blessings, generosity and a righteous life, offering help to relatives and kin, and acting in ways that leave no blame. These are the highest blessings, steadfast in restraint and shunning evil ways, avoiding intoxicants that dull the mind, and heedfulness in all things that arise. These are the highest blessings, respectfulness and being of humble ways, contentment and gratitude, and hearing the Dhamma frequently taught. These are the highest blessings, patience and willingness to accept one's faults, seeing venerated seekers of the truth, and sharing often the words of Dhamma. These are the highest blessings, ardent, committed to the holy life, seeing for oneself the noble truths, and the realization of Nibbana. These are the highest blessings, although in contact with the world, unshaken the mind remains, beyond all sorrow, spotless, secure. These are the highest blessings, they who live by following this path know victory wherever they go, and every place for them is safe. These are the highest blessings.
Okay. So having chanted together, we can sit meditation for a while together. So there are a few pairs of things to remember and embody when you come to meditate. First pair is the mind and the body itself. So starting meditation, you set the body upright, but allow it to be as relaxed as you possibly can. Embodying that uprightness as you allow your vertebrae, spine to elongate, to stretch down as if into the earth, and up through the skull as if into the sky. And with this central axis, upright, alert, allow all the rest of the body, all the muscles, sinews, all the rest of the body can just drape over this central axis like a coat rack. So the body is upright, but relaxed. Upright, but not uptight. And with the body set up like this, we want to mirror the same state in the mind. So coming to your meditation object, if that's the breath or a mantra, you can pay attention to the incoming breath, the in-breath, knowing the full in-breath, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and the full out-breath, beginning, middle, and end of every out-breath. And then repeat. You can know the breath at the tip of the nose, feeling the somewhat cool in-breath, the somewhat warm out-breath at the tip of the nose. You can watch the in-breath in the lungs, the enlarging, expanding of the in-breath, and the collapsing and relaxing of the out-breath. Or you can know it at the belly. And two mental qualities to keep in mind as we watch the breath like this. Staying aware of our meditation object, our mindfulness and clear comprehension. So we're mindful that for this period of time, this is my meditation object, the breath. Remembering to come back when the mind runs away. But at the same time, we have to be clearly aware. This clear knowing. How is the breath right now? And how is the mind relating to the breath? And if you just have the mindfulness, you know every single in and out breath, but you don't have the clear awareness, the clear knowing. It's possible to just go on to autopilot. But then you're really not getting the most out of meditation. So is the mind actually alert as you breathe in and breathe out? Is the mind interested as you breathe in and breathe out? Is the body calm as you breathe in and breathe out? And having this constellation of bright awareness and watching, paying attention as you remember to be with the breath is very important. We are remaining mindful. Thoughts run away to the past or the future or to liking or disliking. We mindfully come back to the breath. And it's not even a coming back, it's just an opening. The breath never left, and the mind is still here. So we're mindful, and we're clearly knowing. We've got a sensitivity, a higher order awareness. How am I paying attention to the breath? Am I tensing up? Or is awareness too loose? And allowing these two qualities to support one another. Remembering, being mindful to also be sensitive and bringing sensitivity, clear knowing to our mindfulness. Knowing the beginning, the middle, and the end of every in and out breath in a way which is leading to both clarity and calm. In the last few minutes of a group meditation like this, or really in any meditation, it can be helpful to practice a bit of loving kindness meditation. So taking these deeply transferable skills of mindfulness and clear knowing and just changing the object. So from the heart, generating this wish. This is the object of mindfulness. May I be happy and may all beings be happy. Remembering and being mindful of this phrase, May I be happy, and may all beings be happy. The healthiest and most beneficial, uncomplicated, liberating type of happiness. Remembering the phrase, remembering the warm heart feeling that comes to that, being mindful of these. And at the same time, being sensitive, having this clear knowing of allowing this feeling to be genuine. Really, may I be happy, the highest, cleanest, purest, most uncomplicated type of happiness. May I have that, and may all beings be happy with the highest, cleanest, purest, most uncomplicated happiness. Sensitive to that, this kindness, this softness, this brightness, and allowing it to drench, steep, fill, and pervade, to spread in every direction, above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to ourselves. May I be happy, and may all beings be happy.
If anyone would like to join in requesting the Dhamma talk, it's on page 124. And we can bow 3 times and then start. Brahma Chaloka Dipati Sahampati Katanjaliana Diwaram Maya Chata Santi Dasata Parajaka Jatika Desetu Dhammang Anukampimang Pajang.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So it's great to be here with everybody. Thought it was great that the heating system stopped all of its clanking for us to meditate. I thought that was going to be a integral part of our calming practice during the meditation, to just relax around those randomly timed clanks and bangs. But fortunately, it stopped for enough time for us to meditate, and we'll see if it comes back. But yeah, I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I was myself visiting family and had a really nice time with different family members, visiting, staying at my brother's house and with his wife and their, I guess, nieces and nephews. And it was a turkey trot on Thanksgiving itself. I'd never heard of that before. Everybody just talked about it as if everybody should know what a turkey trot is, but I had no idea, but I got wrangled into going on a turkey trot with everybody. And really, it's not that different from walking meditation, except you've got kids running circles around you. I've managed to get all the dinosaur stamps off of my hand. Every time you go a lap, you get a dinosaur stamp. Yeah, it was good. It was a good Thanksgiving. But you know, family, it's the best, and it can be complicated at times. So was thinking a lot about family this past week, and it's good. This chant that we did is really a beautiful roadmap for happiness in a Buddhist context. So many of us Westerners, or people not born in a Buddhist country, we just come to Buddhism through meditation. And for many, that's the entirety of their Buddhist experience or their spiritual experience. What they're comfortable with is just meditating. But this discourse really gives a full roadmap to how to experience well-being in a human life. It's not just siloed into what we do when we're sitting by ourselves for 15 or 20 minutes in the morning and in the evening by ourselves, but it's an integral path. There are all these different avenues which we can be taking to really live a full and mature and adult life. We specifically this morning like to focus in on that verse, which is the second on page 47. So the verse reads, providing for mother and father's support and cherishing family and ways of work that harm no being. So how do we relate to all these things? How do we relate to family in a Buddhist context? What did the Buddha have to say about how to relate to family? So it's good to look at this and figure out what role family can play in our Dhamma lives, or what role can Dhamma play in our family lives. So all this week was listening as I was staying with family, finding different Dhamma talks from other teachers about family, and went on to dhammatalks.org, a really great website with the Venerable Tenisaro's Dhamma talks, and just it's got a great search function. You can search the last like 20 years of Dhamma talks and just put family in there, and one after another. I think there's 2011, 2017, 2024, but just in all like around Thanksgiving and Christmas time, you've got talks like protection for the holidays, heedfulness for the holidays, sanity for the holidays. And I highly recommend all of these talks. And people are laughing because it's so relatable. These things are not cut and dry. Family is not just a simple thing. I think for most people, it can be one of the highest blessings if we relate to our family members well, but it can also be a really complicated and enmeshing and ensnaring relationship if we don't relate to family and family situation with wisdom. So yeah, this first aspect, providing for mother and father's support. This is a really important thing. So part of mundane, what's called mundane right view, is a very simple and somewhat enigmatic statement. There is mother and there is father. There is mother and there is father. And what the Buddha is pointing to here is that there is truth to the relationship between a child and their parents. There is a depth to that relationship that we all need to figure out, and we all need to, you can't just brush it all under the rug and pretend like there's no deeper connection to this relationship. It's causality. So much of Buddhism, the whole truth of paticca samuppada or dependent origination, is about the causality of our own suffering. The Four Noble Truths are all about how we cause ourselves to suffer and how we can not do that. When we relate to the inevitable suffering and pain and discomforts of life with wisdom, then we don't have to suffer. Pain is unavoidable, but suffering is avoidable. We don't have to suffer with the inevitable pains of life if we relate to them skillfully. And on a human level, our parents are what caused us. That's the causality of a human experience. In another discourse, the Buddha said that, talking about relationship with parents, he said that two beings are hard to repay. Who are those? Mother and father. And he gives perhaps one of the most graphic similes of the Pali Canon. He says, if you were to carry your mother on one shoulder and your father on your other shoulder for 100 years, and you were to massage them and wash them, and even if they were to defecate and urinate right there on your shoulders, and you would just continue to look after them for 100 years, even that wouldn't fully repay the relationship which you have to your parents. But he continues, so he does give an option. You don't have to do that. That's option one. It's option one. But option two is if you can establish your parents who aren't yet established in generosity, in a sense of generosity. So if you can encourage your parents, the people you care about, the people who, family in general, if you can encourage them to be more generous, then that's a way of repaying them, which goes more than carrying them around on your shoulders. If you can encourage your parents who aren't yet established in a foundational and healthy sense of ethics or virtue, to be more virtuous, to have more of a sense of integrity, then that is a way of repaying them. If you can get your parents who don't yet have faith or confidence to have more faith, and we aren't asking our parents to bow down to Buddha statues or anything superficial and not so important as an outward gesture like that, but to really have confidence in the principle of causality, that it is possible to abandon unhelpful mental states like greed, anger, and delusion. And it is possible to cultivate healthy mental states, mature emotions like loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. If we can really get those who we owe so much to believe in that and to really live from that place of confidence, then that's a way of repaying that debt of gratitude. So the Buddha is here when he says providing for mother and father support is a highest blessing. He is talking about our actual mothers and fathers. But we can also look at it as symbolic mothers and fathers. And in the meditation that we just did now, when we look at mindfulness and clear comprehension, these are like mothers and fathers of bright mental states, of wisdom, of tranquility. We need to bring these qualities, and we need to provide for the support of these qualities. And what does that mean? It means both in meditation, we provide for the support of mindfulness by nurturing it, remembering to remember, remembering to remember, remembering to be sensitive again and again. And not just during meditation, but throughout our daily life. We just have to provide for the support of mindfulness in our formal practices while we're doing formal sitting meditation on our meditation cushions for however long we do that. We provide for the support of that by being mindful throughout the day. Mindful of what? Being mindful not to be triggered, being mindful not to be reactive, and being sensitive to our principles in life. So these are like a mother and a father for us, and we pay attention to these causal conditions for well-being and meditation as well. So the second aspect that the Buddha brings up in this particular stanza is in cherishing family. And then the next stanza, the Buddha says, offering help to relatives and kin. So this is framed really in a non-monastic lay wording. So cherishing family, the word is literally for children and for spouse. And then the offering help to relatives is just that. So our more extended family. So how do we do that? And we do that through what's called sangaha, which is translated here as cherishing or as offering help. There are 4 bases for this way of providing for family support. That is through generosity, through kind words, through beneficial help, and through being even-minded, having a level of equanimity. And these are really important virtues during the holiday season. This is one way to protect the mind during the holidays, one way to be heedful during the holidays and to bring sanity to yourself and to your surroundings during the holiday. So many of our family members don't have the supports that we have. They don't see the benefit in being kind and generous and speaking words of friendliness to one another. So we can be that anchor. We can be that kindness to our larger family group. So those 4 qualities are good to memorize. Many people have already memorized the Brahma Viharas, these divine abidings of loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. But these 4 bases for sympathy, the 4 Sangaha Vatu, bases for communal harmony of generosity, of friendly speech, of beneficial help, and of evenness. These are the 4 Buddhist love languages. So figuring out how to both be sterling and to really practice these in our relationships is really important. You can see the effect of these as you bring them into daily life, interacting with your family. One of the cool things that happened it was actually on Thanksgiving Day. So I think I'm somewhat spared. I have gone to family Thanksgivings before. I think it was great. I got a 6-year reprieve from Thanksgivings when I first ordained. I didn't go back to a single one. So it was like a detox. It was like a family Thanksgiving detox for 6 years and kind of reset sanity to some extent for myself. And yeah, now coming back, I've been to several of these, and yeah, they're interesting times and a lot of love, a lot of emotion. But on Thanksgiving itself, it's only been one time of the several that I've been that my family makes the effort, and it is a big effort, and I'm really grateful for it, to actually make Thanksgiving meal happen before noon. So as monks and nuns, we can't eat after noon. So it was a very kind gesture for my family several years ago to actually have the meal like 10:30, preparing food the day before and getting up super early to prepare everything, and a very, very kind gesture, which I appreciated. And it was great, but it also comes with the drawbacks of Thanksgiving meal, which is, as you all know, you eat a lot of food when there's just tons of food around. So when it's in the afternoon, I just can't eat. So I'm just there, sitting with some seltzer water while everybody is just digging into the highest plate of food that you've, seen in the last year. Uh, but after that, my brother ordered these test strips online on Amazon. And maybe someone can help me with the name. I think the acronym for these test strips, they've got a chemical on them, which I think the acronym is PCU or PCT. But what they are is this very, very bitter compound, this very, very bitter chemical substance. And what they are testing for is something called super tasters. Super tasters. So some percentage of the human population, and it differs in different countries. It differs. Yeah, women are more likely to be a super taster than men are. Croatians are more likely than Serbians to be super tasters. And maybe it's the other way around. Please don't quote me on that. But what a super taster can do is you take this little strip, which has this extremely bitter compound, and 25% of people will lick and taste this test strip. It's like a pH test strip, and will taste nothing. Those are non-tasters. So my brother gives these out, and I put it in my mouth, and no taste at all. Just this completely boring. I mean, it's a very trustful act. You could put anything on this piece of paper, but okay, little piece of paper, nothing. But then he gives it to my sister, and she licks half of it, and she makes the most kind of disgusted face. It's like a extreme bitterness. She is a super taster, and she only licked a part of it. And I'm saying, oh, I couldn't believe her face. So I'm like, okay, so give me that. Give me the other half of that. Tasted it, and again, nothing. I ate half of her test strip, and nothing, no taste at all. And then you've got people who are medium tasters who have some little reaction, but nothing like the super tasters, but it is something, not like the non-tasters. And so it was somewhat of a novel thing. It was about the same percentage that you find on an American population of about 25% are non-tasters, 50% are medium tasters, and 25% are super tasters. So I wish I had brought some of these strips. Maybe next week or some future week, one of you can get some of these. You can buy them off Amazon, apparently. It's fascinating to test your family, bring them out, taste, we can test. This is a very trusting and good group. Please don't poison us or drug us, anybody, but invitation to future weeks testing. But it was fascinating that we could each be experiencing at least the sensory realm of taste so differently. And it wasn't a choice. It's not like any of us, my sister didn't make a choice to be a super taster, a hyper taster, and I didn't make a choice to be a non-taster. But that's the biology of the tongue. That's the, just for whatever reason, it is somewhat hereditary, but yeah, we're just built this way in different ways. And I found it fascinating to see that all of us are experiencing the world through our own lenses. And it's great to be able to appreciate that. And if there's something that we don't understand about a family member, maybe it's because they're experiencing the world in a very different way. And that is the case. I mean, this super taster example is just one, which is really obvious and which you can test. But it is true with all of our other senses. We're all seeing the world very differently. We're seeing threats and we're seeing safety in very different ways. We're hearing the world very differently. If you have any relatives or friends who have hearing disabilities or hearing limitations, we're hearing the world very differently. And that affects communication in a very profound way. And it brings a lot of understanding. If you can say, oh, maybe this, mismatched conversation didn't go as I had planned because they didn't hear it the same way that I said it. And bringing some understanding and some spaciousness to the different realms of our senses is really important for family harmony and really harmony for all our relationships. And then bringing this Sanghahavatu, this basis for communal harmony of kind speech and understanding to this. Similar with smells, we're all smelling the world differently, tasting the world differently, touching the world differently. I think people who are neurodivergent often have just more physical sensitivity. So there's something called stimming, where people who are neurodivergent or maybe on the spectrum, just will stim, will do these different physical gestures to just calm the body, to relax the body, to pay attention to something other than the overstimulation that they're getting from the senses. And to just have an allowance for that for ourselves. If we ourselves are super touchers, people who, for reasons that we didn't choose, just feel the world, literally feel the world in different ways, and giving understanding and space for other people in the same way. And all the more so on the level of mind, we're all experiencing and thinking about the world in very different ways. I've got a couple of family members who, just are great people. Yeah. So that leads us to the next one. So in ways of work that harm no being, the Pali for this is anakula cha kamanta. So kamanta is work, but it's also the ways of interacting, the ways of doing, the ways of being in the world. And anakula, it does mean that harm, it means doing things in a way which is harmless. But that first part of the word, kula, or the root of that word, anakula, kula is a family. The root of that word is to be close, to be close. So the word family, kula, is closeness. That's what family is. Family is closeness. It's those people who we are closest to, at least for a large chunk of our lives. Both our family of origin and our family of choosing. These are the people who are closest to us, our family of origin and our family of creation. But when you add this prefix to akula, it changes the kula root, which means closeness. Is a intensifier. So when you intensify closeness, it becomes entangledness. So this line right here, ways of work that harm no being, could also be translated as in ways of doing and being in the world which are not entangled. So ways of relating to those who are closest to us in ways which are not entangled, not obstructed. I just find that fascinating, that you take the beauty, which can be family, and you just intensify it. You go and live as an adult with your adult parents, and your way of loading the dishwasher is different from their way of loading the dishwasher. This intensity of this closeness can lead to lots of problems and entanglement and struggle. And how do we relate to that? So we do it by anakula. We do and be and interact in ways that are not overly entangled. So we bring some space. We don't entangle ourselves with family in an unhelpful way. And that's great. That's great for everybody, because we're all complicated humans. We're all complicated and imperfect humans. One of my teachers in one of the talks that I listened to in this past week was really talking about ways of being with family and really urging a lot of carefulness. This teacher, in a rather blunt fashion, said, yeah, you get a lot of Dhamma teachers, this is paraphrasing, you get a lot of modern Dhamma teachers that praise just going home or being with family, being with everyone in a way which is open and unguarded and vulnerable. And this teacher says, that is a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe for disaster. being open and vulnerable, this teacher suggests, is a recipe for disaster. So how do we do this? How do we relate to, how do we provide for mother and father's support to these people who we do have this debt of gratitude for? These people who there is father, there is mother, in a way which is not disastrous. It really takes a lot of care. It's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. The Buddha, actually, in this vein of balancing, he gives this simile of acrobats. There are two acrobats. One of them is named Frying Pan, and the other one probably has another crazy circus-like name, but I can't remember what it is. But Frying Pan is the apprentice, I believe, and what they're doing is trying to balance the one on top of the other one. So having someone balance on your shoulders. And Frying Pan, the apprentice is spoken to by the teacher, and the teacher says, okay, you look after yourself and I'll look after you and you look after me. And then, we'll perform the trick and then everybody will give us money and we'll be all be good. But Frying Pan says, no, it's not that you look after me and I look after you, but it's that you look after you and I'll look after me. And that way, everybody will be safe. So that's the balancing act that we can be responsible for. Ultimately, we are the owners of our actions, heir to our actions, born of our actions. Whatever we do, for good or for ill, of that, we will be the heirs. We're responsible for ourselves. We do have this relationship with family. It's a good thing to be able to provide for family to the extent that we can in a healthy way, which doesn't throw us off balance. But ultimately, we have to look after ourselves to do this balancing act. And by looking after ourselves, how do we do that? We look after ourselves by practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness, being able to look at the mind and the body and feelings and mental formations in a way which is not enmeshed with them. We're not chasing after all the pleasant things of the world and running away from all the unpleasant things, but having a little bit of distance, a little bit of space. And by doing that, we're looking after ourselves. And how, by looking after ourselves, do we look after each other? Through compassion and goodwill. So that's ultimately what we can do. We're sort of in between holidays now, whether it's Thanksgiving and then Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, Vigil. You should all come. It's going to be great if you like that kind of thing. But how do we do this? Do this balancing act. We maintain our own awareness and looking after ourselves, keeping mindful, but with a sense of compassion and care for the people around us. So encourage everybody in that way to look after your parents of mindfulness and clear comprehension, remembering that which is good to remember and being sensitive to the effect of that. It isn't just an intellectual exercise. So on one level, the turning of the mind back to the breath, back to whatever we're trying to remember, is an intellectual exercise. It's a move, but we're sensitive to how that's actually, how it's landing. So encourage everybody to do just that, to be able to be with family, our extended family, in a way which is balanced and not overly entangled. Close, but not closer. So in the talk there.
Handamayang Dhammakataya Sadhu Karang Dadama Se Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
Okay, so we can open things up for questions. And say, Trenton, do we actually have people on Zoom today, or? Okay. Oh, good. We can see him here. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so if people here have questions, we've got a mic runner. Miles can bring a question mic to you, and yep, just raise your hand. And same with the people on Zoom. If you've got a question, just raise your cute little cartoon hand, and we can call on you.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the Dharma talk. It seems, though, that you somewhat sidestepped some of the more difficult entanglements. And I know some of us, or at least I'm assuming, don't have the privilege of a normative family. And one way I wanted to put this question is, what if Mara is your mother? How do you spend time with family? Do you spend time with family? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so you have to balance this providing for mother and father support and cherishing family and offering help to relatives and kin with the very first highest blessing of avoiding those of foolish ways. So knowing yourself, knowing them, knowing your own habits, knowing patterns which are deep and thick, and being realistic about that. It's not Buddhism is not idealism trying to force an idea of a happy family onto a situation which is not that. So knowing your own capacities and knowing what they can handle. If I come in and I'm not strong enough to a dynamic which will just ball me over, that's not beneficial for anybody. If we're the acrobats, everybody tumbles over and gets bloodied, and it's not worth it. So being realistic about that and being compassionate. I mean, that's an act of compassion for oneself and for one's family in that situation. So yeah, I would advocate just looking and feeling what's true there. So.
Thank you for bringing that up. Who has complicated relationships with family? Good. So no, I think just what Ajahn Kovila said, I think really hits the mark in terms of judging what's actually beneficial. One thing I'd say is, yeah, there is a place for putting up boundaries. And I think that's one really powerful way of looking at anatta in Buddhism is if people are collections of sankhara, of pattern, which sankhara are you feeding? If the overwhelming dynamic with a mother or a father or a sibling is like really damaging unwholesome sankhara on their or your behalf, are you doing any good by going and visiting and just feeding that sankhara, or is it feeding something the other person that's not beneficial for either? So I think there really is a place for boundaries and for some people to pull back quite a lot. I would also balance that though with saying that I think the Buddhist encouragement towards that recollection of there's mother and there's father is it's your responsibility as a child to always be looking for the point where something could be rebridged. Like that's our duty. And to be very sensitive and to know that there is a debt always, even if you had a very problematic childhood. So to always be looking for that point where a bridge could be built again. I think there's a strong place for skillful means with this, which is like, is there an uncomplicated, unentangling way of just letting a parent know you love them? Like sending them flowers twice a year or something funny, like maybe their favorite flavor of cheesecake. You don't have to call them every week, but can you send them a cheesecake 3 times a year just with a little note? And just the amount of energy it takes to hold radio silence with someone is massive. It is massive. And that person can be a much bigger presence in your life through a stubborn cutting off that's not sensitive to the proper harmony than if you just have like a modicum of contact. And just to acknowledge like your relationship with your parents, there's no neutral to it. It's always a factor. So cutting it off might seem like you're trying to neutralize it, but often there's a valence to that too. And so, yeah, like there is a place for drawing boundaries, but just to be always negotiating that and always looking for when you can bridge that gap, even in a skillful, gentle, non-entangling way. Yeah. Does that help at all, or does that answer the question a little?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Ajahn Kovilo also had a great series of comics he wrote for his dad over the course of 2 years. And one deals with the analogy, which he just gave at the beginning, but carrying your parents on your shoulders. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in the comic, my dad chose the first option of being carried around on my shoulders, and I wasn't prepared for that in the comic. So, Glenn.
Thank you, Ajahns, for your talk today. Oh, is it okay if I share a short story? So I had a complicated and difficult relationship with my mother, and one Mother's Day, I couldn't bring myself to call her, send flowers, or do anything. And I was on the way home from work at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I felt guilty. I'm like, ugh. But I didn't do that day because I was feeling so much anger and resentment towards her. I'm like, I'm not going to wish you anything on Mother's Day. And then I thought, what do I say? So I sent her an email that said, oh, I hope you had a good day. And I hope you are filled with love. And I hope you are peaceful and safe and protected. The metta phrases. And I'll call you tomorrow. Fast forward to the next morning, I receive an email response from her that says, oh, you're so beautiful and kind with your words. This is the first time I ever did it. And she goes, you know, you're just this amazing person who I love so much, despite everything that has happened in the past. And that was the first time in like 40 years she acknowledged that it might have been difficult. And it was the most amazing experience. So the metta did work. So my question to you is, how do we provide for mother and father, maybe siblings, kin, if they're passed on, if they're no longer here physically?
Yeah, there's a sutta that we've already covered in the mission Majjhima. I think it's the Akankaya, Majjhima number six-ish. Where the Buddha says, if someone would wish, may those who've passed away, like mother or father, remember me, and because of that remembrance, practice the Dhamma, then one should practice morality, one should practice mental seclusion, meditation, and also practice insight, vipassana. And that by that, you're creating the conditions for well-being of family. And it's interesting to think about. The Buddha doesn't elaborate on the dynamics of how that actually works, but I certainly find with myself, having grandmother who's passed away, even if that actual dynamic doesn't work, if there's no afterlife, which most probably convert Buddhist curious people, don't yet believe in rebirth, even if it's not true, it still feels good for me to, oh yeah, I'm keeping the precepts and thinking of my grandma and doing this generous act. And if it's very easy to imagine that if rebirth were a thing, if rebirth were real, and none of us have any proof that it's not, then this would be a time when if she could see that, then she would delight as well. I'm doing something good, which she could appreciate, and that being for her well-being as well. So.
I was staying with a teacher named Ajahn Kalyana in Australia, and a woman came up after and said, my mom passed away and I've just dreamed of her this last month, and she's shivering and cold and her clothes are in rags and she's just asking for help. And Ajahn Kalyana said, yeah, she's actually in an in-between state in a ghost realm. You need to do good acts and dedicate it to her. She'll be able to feel that. And afterwards, I went to him and I said, I've heard about this in the suttas, but I've never seen this in person, like in real life. And he said, this happens all the time. So in every culture except ours, there's a way of recollecting and dedicating to the dead, Dia de los Muertos, ancestor worship in China, in Thailand. So yeah, when you do good acts, remember those who have died and bring them to mind. And if the Buddha said that if they are nearby, they can feel the goodness, and it feels good if you know someone's thinking of you. So especially if someone's died, for the 7 days after that, light a candle in the morning and evening and dedicate merit, meditate, spread loving kindness. And then in Thailand, they don't just end at 7 days. They'll come back around and do another ceremony, in a month, and then in 3 months, and then in a year. So just keep on doing that. And even if, like Ajahn Kovilo said, there is no afterlife, it changes your relationship to the memory. And one other thing I'd just say is, this isn't some rosy-eyed view of one's parents. When we don't forgive parents, it's like we trace our suffering back to what they did. But it's like this limited view of conditionality, like, take that back. What about when they were 5? Just go on back farther until you see them as a child. And there's forgiveness hiding there. And to know that, I think this is the problem, is that with modern forms of therapy, so many of them do trace back your suffering and your stories to childhood. And yeah, like a lot of those lead to your parents. The problem, though, is that without that framework of sanctity, like this is a sacred relationship, if there's that feeling of framing the parent-child relationship as sacred, then it becomes this crucible for you to become patient and loving. But there needs to be that sacred framing, because that's what, otherwise there's too many sankhars running around in patterns and friction, and it just rips apart. But if there's the framing, then it becomes the most powerful way towards forgiveness and love, that relationship, if it's held like that. And in Thailand, every year, the kids will come and wash their parents' hands and ask for forgiveness. It's like such a beautiful relationship. So.
Carl?
There also seems to be a phenomenon in families where their emotionally IQ, both receiving and giving, seems to be damaged. I can think of one situation in a family member that had very difficult relationships on all sides. And then at their funeral, people came up that weren't in the family and talked about their good qualities and were crying about how helpful they were. And so there's something that seems to be that family sometimes brings out the worst in both sides of us, and we can't see the good of others and they can't see ours. If you could just comment on that.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, cultivating an emotional intelligence is very important as well, and it can very easily be overlooked if someone's foregrounding some form of spiritualism, which is just meditation, or just an intellectual appreciation of a spiritual life, just reading suttas or reading books about meditation. But we do need to educate ourselves on the emotional level. And I feel like figuring out at least, and it's probably a lifelong education, but how to relate to family, that aspect of emotional intelligence is just so important, and you can't just bypass it. And it will not look the same for any family. But being sensitive to that and just realizing that you can't ignore this part of our being.
Some of you know this story, but it's Ajahn Jayasaro's story of like how this gratitude towards one's parents is not some artificial thing, but rather a real understanding of conditionality. Is he was wandering through, I think, is Israel or Iran during his time before ordination, and he'd been traveling around Asia without money just to see if it could be done. Traveled over the Afghanistan mountains and rolled up in a rug, not because he was being smuggled, just to stay warm. And anyway, and then he lost his passport, and he was wandering kind of dirty and ragged down this street. And this woman looks him up and down, just gives him a stern motion. And so he kind of follows her up into her apartment. She points him to the shower, pushes him in, basically drops a shirt and a pair of pants in there with him. And he gets the message. He showers, comes out clean. She has a meal waiting for him. He kind of eats it. They don't speak the same language, but she keeps looking at her watch because she's probably late for work. And then he finishes eating. She ushers him downstairs, puts him out on the street, and then sort of heads off, and they don't exchange one word. And years later, when he was meditating in an ashram in India, that memory came to mind. This woman who'd fed him and clothed him with for no reason, who he didn't know, and he was just had tears rolling down his face. And then he thought, how is it that I have this huge swelling of gratitude for this woman and my parents who clothed me and fed me every single day? I don't even think of. And it's just this understanding of what they've done for us. So I thought that was a really important story to frame things with.
We'll go with Suze, and this might be the last question for the morning.
I wanted to follow up on what Ajahn Nisabo said about causality. And a couple years before my mother died, and I was so filled with resentment towards her. And I think it was the practice and having studied dependent origination. And I started thinking more about what her life had been like and why she came to parenting with the skills and the perspective that she had. And when I went through my own forgiveness practice, the biggest gift was the change in my own heart, because the resentment was gone. I mean, the facts are there, and I see the conditionality inside of me, but the anger and resentment were gone. And that was such a gift of just seeing more like the bigger picture of reality. And so thanks for bringing up the forgiveness piece. It's been important in my life.
Thank you, Suze. Okay. Well, not sure if everyone knew, but last week on Tuesday, this week, the week before last, several Tuesdays ago, it was Ajahn Nisabo's birthday. And we never celebrated him, even though he's so good at celebrating other people. But today, the day has come. So it looks like we've got something coming into the room. And everybody can join in. Nice. That is Ajahn Nisabo's favorite angry cat face. Yeah. You make a wish? Okay. I don't think, did you know this was coming? Did you think we all forgot?
Ajahn Kovi and I share a Canva template thing for our YouTube thumbnails, and I saw a random angry cat on it. And I was suspicious, but I didn't know for sure. No. Thank you so much, Ajahn, and everyone. Is that the same unicorn? Did you blow it back up? Miles, that was an act of love. That's so good. Wow. Yeah, my wish was that we continue, that this community continues, and we actually come up with a refuge and a sanctuary for so many who need it. And that is 3 or more years ago what drew me here. And then just to see this, speaking of family, and not the complicated kind, just I feel like coming here it's apart from ordination, alongside, my wonderful parents, it's the biggest blessing of my life thus far. And I feel so, I don't know what I did to kind of deserve landing here. And then I have Ajahn Kovilo, who's just the best monk-in-law ever. so yeah, that's really sweet.
Thank you, Ajahn. we're also happy you're here. And to prove it, we're going to open up the opportunity for anybody who would like to say as much to express your gratitude or thoughts for Ajahn Nisabo as he's done with others in the community. So people just want to raise your hand and we can bring a mic around and you can share and say your appreciation. I can start. I'm very grateful. I had no idea that my life would lead me in the direction of Clear Mountain. But as you say, it's been a huge, it's basically the direction of hopefully the rest of my life. And you're just you're the foundation and the real magnet around which all of these so good and wholesome Dhammic forces are coalescing, and very grateful for it. And you hold it with a lot of humility and extreme social skill and just very appreciative and humor. And you're always able to receive my feedback at least within 24 hours. So yeah. Bree, please.
Happy birthday. Yeah, I just remember the first time I got to hear you speak, God, I don't even know how many years ago that was now, but being so moved by that talk that I heard. You were probably one of the first monastics I really got to encounter. And as sort of like a prior Buddhist atheist, like that was a really lovely exposure and sort of getting me further into Theravada Buddhism. And I've heard you quote it several times, but I remember hearing you say, living a life worthy of my death that day. And that just rung and has continued to ring out into my life. So thank you for making this practice so accessible. Because as a Buddhist atheist, it's intimidating, but you as well, Kovulo, Ajahn Kovulo. So thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday, Ajahn Nisabo. I just want to express gratitude for your heart and how just everything that does to bring everyone together, how people feel connected when they're with you. It's very beautiful.
Ajahn Nisabo, I am forever grateful for having to meet you in this lifetime. I just have felt drawn to you ever since we've met. And every time I'm around this community and you kind of crack open my heart. And there's just something there when you speak and the way you compose yourself. And you're a great example for who I would want to strive to be. So thank you.
And we do have Ajahn Nisabo's parents here as well, if they wanted to say anything. We'll get one voice from Zoom real quick. Joseph, please. I wish everybody could see you because you might have emoticons to show us, but.
No, let Juanita go. I think her hand was up first.
Who was? Juanita, please.
Namaskar, Ajahn. And hello to everybody. Not enough word to say. You are representative of the Buddha, the robe that bring over here to Seattle. And then I realized when I first met you in the volunteer park, in the first talk, and it make me realize that this is a place that I should be here, and to that you be here, both of you, Ajahn, to create opportunity for me and my family to develop, to cultivate, to improve ourselves, and to share with all that around here. And I feel like you just talk, Ajahn Kul talk about family today, and this is my family. Every movement, every what happened in my family, the crisis, the happiness, seem like you're part of it, and all of us are part of it, and encourage us to do many good things. And then you bring me to the other level of our practice, to meet the teacher that I never thinks I will see him, Ajahn Jasaro, and to see all the Kalyana Mitra. I really realized that this is, Kalyana Mitra is the whole of your life, spiritual life. And more, I can meet many Kalyana Mitra that practice together, and we are like a sister and brother here. Thank you so much for being the pilot for all of this. And I'll be here in America or in Seattle because of this. And every day life, every day, life activity in my life is involved with this. Morning sitting and Zooming and everything. So, thank you so much for all your care. You go crisis with the care for my mother-in-law and for us for being sick, and then you're always there to send good wishes and good word, encouragement to carry on. Thank you very much, and I wish you have a good health and happy birthday. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita. Gary.
Ajahn, happy birthday. I'm so glad that you're here in our world. I recall when I first came and told you that I was, whatever terms we would use, a secularist, that I was agnostic, and your reaction was to look me square in the eyes, and I think this must be your family word. You said, yet. And consistently, the next thing that I really recall noticing was the way you would turn halfway toward us just before you bow and say, no pressure. I really appreciate the gentleness of your welcome. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Joseph, did you want to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Ajahn Nisabo for all the patience and space that he's held. I had a really good dream last night that really showed that the mind was very kind and delighting and forgiving, and that's not possible without good spiritual friends and community to hold space for that kind of work. I just wanted to acknowledge that the community has been so wonderfully kind and patient so that we can practice this beautiful Dhamma that has been given to us from the Blessed One. And thank you so much. Just thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sarah?
I feel like repeating what Bree started with, just to the metric of let my life be worthy of my death. I think about that a lot, and that's where I first heard it. And then what Alexander said, like, I don't know how I got so lucky to meet you. How did that happen? And you continually break my heart open, and can't think of a greater gift. And
Yeah, thanks for choosing us. And thank you always, 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 always to this community that is family too. I'd have Thanksgiving with you guys all the time.
we do every Saturday.
Kim.
Ajahn Nisabo, my name is Megan. I attended your retreat at Cloud Mountain in August, and the words cracked me open that somebody used were very apt. Every day since then, I have been meditating, and it has transformed my life. And my family really needs me to do that every day. So, on behalf of my husband and my children, thank you.
So I think Ajahn Nisabo already knows how much I admire and value him. But I just wanted to say to Sarah and Doug, thank you so much for taking such good care of the being that is Ajahn Nisabo so that he could come here and take such amazing care of us. It's a beautiful, beautiful example. So I just wanted to honor that.
Okay. Ajahn Nisabo thinks that's good, but we could push him a little bit more if we wanted one or two. Cheryl.
Hi, I just wanted to quickly say thank you for your amazing hospitality and welcome. I feel very welcome here, and I have from the very first day. So thank you.
Allison.
Everything that everyone has said, yes, very much so. And just thinking about, I know I've said this before, but yeah, just the gratitude for you choosing the monastic life, the holy life, the gift that it gives to everyone here and reverberates out. And you would have done beautiful things. I know as a layperson, you're kind of unstoppable. And but it is just yeah, I'm so grateful that you chose the holy life, and it's a real gift. And yeah, I think going back to the Enneagram thing, I'm a 1 and your 7 is good. It's where I need to grow. And so I get to grow in the Dhamma and grow in my 7. And just to have everyone here to do this with is really a blessing. So thank you for letting us celebrate you. You celebrate us all the time. And it's a rare opportunity that we get to turn it back around. This is this beautiful reciprocal relationship that the Buddha laid down between monastics and lay people. So thank you.
And there is a card which is circulating. And if people, it's not too late to sign it, actually. So it's in the back. Kim is pointing at it right now with 2 hands. And just to appreciate everybody who shared, Ajahn Nisabo created several things. The triple sadhu, he didn't create that, but he does do it better than almost anybody. Sparkly sadhus, which you either do a prayer hands or a sparkle finger. I realized a while ago that if you do both at the same time, it looks rather sinister. So choose sparkle hands or the prayer hands. We're going to do 3 sadhus together, everybody. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much, Ajahn.
So grateful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ajahn. Means a lot to have a community that knows I like Grumpy Cat like that. It's it's meant a lot. Thank you.
So as most Saturdays, we do have food. There's a potluck in the back. If you can, please try to say hello to somebody who you don't yet know to meet community. And with that, I think we'll wrap things up and we can all bow, those who want to, if you want to, no pressure. Just bow 3 times. Enjoy cake. There is vegan and non-vegan and gluten-free, all gluten-free.